Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Unorthodox Vegan. My name is Sean Gold and today we're going to be making Baba Ghanoush. Now, I found out that some people don't know what Baba Ghanoush is. Therefore, I thought it would be appropriate for me to explain what that is. Baba Ghanoush is a Lebanese appetizer, famous in the Middle East, nice to have. It's a rich, creamy appetizer made out of eggplant. That's what we'll be making today. All we really need are some of the primary ingredients is really just eggplant. Though there are other things that are required. So let me show you what we're going to be making, what we're going to be using. First off, we're going to be using eggplant. In a previous episode, episode 3 about foraging, talked about how we got some of these eggplants. This one came from a store just across the road, and it was on a discount. And then these other ones were harvested by my daughter from her own garden. We'll also be using a few other key things, including some tahini, some olive oil, a little bit of cumin. Of course, we need some garlic, some smoked salt, lemon juice, a little bit of smoked paprika for an extra smoky flavor. And I'm actually going to try a drop or two of liquid smoke to give it just a little bit extra for that, just that extra smoky flavor. The first thing we have to do is we have to take these eggplant and we have to punch holes in them. And the reason we have to do that is because we're going to roast them. And that roasting period takes about half an hour, half an hour to 40 minutes. What I need to do is make sure that there are punched holes in them with a fork, because if I don't do that, they will explode. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the next couple of moments. Very simple process. Just take a fork, punch some holes in your Baba Ghanoush in various spots around the area. So we're going to do that for all of these. Don't have to do too many, just a couple on each side in case they get covered up on this roasting pan. And I've taken some of the biggest of the small ones that my daughter raised, because we're going to have to peel these. And it's going to take a little bit of work when they're smaller. It's going to have a little bit more peeling, but I want to take advantage of some of this. And the smallest ones that I have, that I got from her, I'm going to be using those for I'll be slicing those up and just frying them into a curry dish. So this is all going to go into the oven. Now, before I put it in the oven, I will preheat the oven. Put it into a roast mode and about 425 degrees. Now it starts roasting right away. It brings that temperature, so I'm just going to put it in right now to the top shelf so it gets the most amount of heat. And I'm going to put the timer on for, I'm going to say 30 minutes just to start with. Give me a little warning. Now we're just going to sit back and wait for that alarm to go off. When the timer does go off, I will be using my trusty fork again. I will use this to push against the eggplant and make sure that it collapses. That means that the interior of the eggplant has been nicely cooked and it's all soft inside, which is what you want. You want to soften it right down. So just pushing on the outside is the easiest way to tell if the eggplant is ready. If it is not ready, just let it go for another 5-10 minutes, but just make sure that that's what you're doing first. Make sure that it collapses nicely inside. That means that it's all nice and cooked inside. And then we'll be taking it out, letting it cool down a little bit. And then we actually do the peeling and separating of the meat from inside the eggplant and bringing that to, and we'll mix it all up with all the other ingredients. Stay tuned. We're going to do just a quick little test right now. We hit the 30-minute mark, and it's still very firm, especially the smaller ones, quite a bit firm. And pushing them down, they stick there. So I'm putting it in for an extra 10 minutes, and we'll see how that goes. The alarm just went off, so that has been 40 minutes. Still got the oven on just to check something out here, but let's just see how that goes. It's almost done. I can see the smaller ones are pretty good. Pretty good. Squeezed out a little bit of liquid there out of that one. I am going to turn off the oven right now. Just turn off the oven and let it sit in the oven for about half an hour. Gives it a chance to cool down. And then we'll take it out and we'll start peeling it and we'll look and see how it's doing. It's now been half an hour since I took the eggplant out of the oven. They look pretty good. I can show you what they look like. You can see for yourself. And now comes the challenging thing of actually taking the skin off and getting these things separated out. First of all, I'm going to move the smaller ones out of the way off to the side. I've never done them before quite like this, so we'll see how that works out. Now, again, using my trusty fork, this is the key tool for this whole operation. I'm just going to stick it into the eggplant and then peel it back. And just to get that skin off there and just to open it up and see what we got to work with. I'm just peeling that back, and you can see the seeds in there from the eggplant and all of the flesh. It looks really nice. We're going to take all of the seeds and flesh out of the eggplant and use that, but we're not going to use the skin. The skin is just too firm. Let me take this carefully. It's still quite hot. You can see it's steaming in there. I want to get as much of the flesh as possible. And take some of this and put it in my compost bin. Stuff that we're not going to be able to use. Okay, let's get some of this skin here. Peel off some of that flesh. And put that into this little jar here, this little container, which I'm going to be using for a few things today. And we're going to take this, all this good stuff, just make sure I don't have any skin in there. Again, it's just a texture that we don't want to have in there. Peel off all the good stuff. Oops, missed that one. Now, as I said, this is a little hot, so I might want to use 2 forks, or you might let it cool a little longer. Let me just get some of this guys out of there. There we go, nice big chunk of that. I have the base that I'm using for my cooking pan, roasting pan, is a silicone pad at the bottom, rather than using parchment paper, although parchment paper works perfectly well as well. I just would prefer to use this if I have it, because it tends to last and be reusable multiple times. And I like that. There's a little bit more flesh on there, but that skin is thick. Okay, so I'm going to throw that out. So there we have the medium size eggplant. This recipe that I have calls for 2 medium-sized eggplants. That's why I have all of these smaller ones in here that I've been adding in there, hoping that they work. There's a little bit of skin in there. We're going to get that off. Put that in here. Now do this, separate out all of the skin. I'm not going to bore you with the process of doing it. I just want to show you how I'm going to do 1 or 2 little ones to see how they actually turn out, because I haven't done them before in this process. Now, let's just see how that's going to work. Oh, they look just the same. Perfect. Perfect. I was hoping that. And you can eat the skin. The texture is not quite right. So I haven't found anything that I can actually use it for. It'd be nice to see if there's a simple recipe that you could use the skin for. Oh, it's nice and sweet. That roasted flavor is coming through. Okay, so that's going to work. I'm not going to bore you with doing the rest. I will do the rest, and then I'm going to show you what we have to do next. I went through all of the eggplants. I've got all of the flesh pulled out of it using that trusty fork. I actually cleaned up the mess I had, put all the skin into my compost bin, and cleaned up the stuff. So I'm already organized for this. We have all the flesh in there. Now, the next step is a little bit interesting. I'll call it that, interesting. It's not something that I was aware of, so it's something that we have all going to learn a little bit about. It is the separation of the liquid. As much of the liquid as possible to separate it out from the eggplant itself, because the liquid apparently is quite bitter. And I haven't quite noticed the flavor or that bitterness in there every time.
So I'm just going to follow the rules or follow the recipe to make sure that we do separate out that liquid. And the easiest way to do that is I'm going to use a strainer and we'll just let it sit for a bit. Hang on a second. Let me show you how we're going to do that. I have a strainer here and I have a measuring cup just to hold it. And I'm just going to dump the eggplant over the strainer, set it sit over that measuring cup, and I'll move it around a little bit. Do this a few times over the next, I'll let it 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm going to find some skin in there, which I just did, that didn't make it into the compost. Take that out. We don't want that texture thing to go, problem to be in there. So I'm just going to look around, see if there's any more skin in there that I've missed. If there is, just simply taking it out. Meanwhile, I'm letting the liquid drain out of there. You can see that there is probably some liquid in there. I've already captured some liquid, and I'll be dumping that out, putting it into my compost because I think it's good stuff for the compost, but not good for the baba ganoush. Let this sit for a minute. I'll be right back. All right, we've had given the eggplant a chance to drip, and I have captured all that liquid down below there. I'm now going to do a little bit more. I'm going to dump that liquid out into my compost, they said, and put this into my mixing bowl that I'm going to be using. Let's take a look, see what we got down here. There we have. This is the container I have of my eggplant. It's all in there. It all looks nice. We're going to do a couple things, add in some things right away. First of all, I have already diced up, 4 cloves of garlic. And I just did that in advance so you didn't have to watch me doing that. You saw me doing it in another episode. I like a lot of garlic in my baba ganoush, and it's finely minced. I did it so that I had, because I'm not going to be processing this, and I don't want it to be too chunky. Although, when you get one of those chunks, it's a nice little bonus if you like garlic. If you don't like garlic, don't put as much in there. If you do like garlic, you can put even more in there. All right. By putting in the garlic, and I did squeeze out a lemon. I'm supposed to put in 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and I think I got about 2 tablespoons. I've already taken the seeds out of there. I'm going to put the pulp in there from that lemon juice, or from the lemon, as well as the juice, and I'm going to mix that around a little bit. And I'm stirring this up with a fork. Again, it's all about the fork. And the reason I'm using the fork is to break it down a little bit. I want to get the texture down to a little creamier without it being really processed. If it's too creamy, it's kind of gross. It's nice to have texture, a little bit of texture. The skin, not so much, but it's nice to have a little bit of texture in the baba ganoush. So I'm just breaking that down a little bit with the fork. And I've got the mixing in that garlic and the lemon juice, and that should be enough. Next up is to add some tahini. I'm going to be putting in a 1/4 cup of tahini. All right, 1/4 cup of tahini. Tahini, again, is a sesame seed paste, and it's got a delightful flavor, almost like peanut butter in texture. Somewhat taste is similar, somewhat. It's a nutty flavor, and it's quite enjoyable, and it works well in Middle Eastern foods. So with the hummus that we did at another earlier time, and now with baba ganoush. I'm just going to get a spatula and get as much off here as possible. Hopefully not make a mess all over the place. All right, that looks good. Save that spatula for a little bit later. I will need it for other things. So now I'm going to mix that in there as well. And you can see that that's getting a nice and thick and a little bit creamier looking. If you notice, it lightened it up. We had that grayer mass of the eggplant in there, the roasted eggplant. You can smell the tahini in there now. Gives it a nice aroma, along with the garlic, the lemon juice, Okay, so it's getting thick, a little too thick. And that's where we're going to go and put in some extra virgin olive oil. And the extra virgin olive oil, we're going to put in a third of a cup of extra virgin olive oil. And so we're just going to push that in there. That's probably about right. Now I could drizzle it in and then mix it in, but frankly, it's not that difficult to do this one. We're just going to pour it in like that. And I'm going to mix it first with a spoon or with that fork. Get that going. And we'll see how that goes. Also need to add in some salt. So I'm going to use 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I'm using a smoked fine sea salt. Again, I like that smoky flavor. I want to get as much smoky flavor as possible. Now, one of the ways I can do it, and my daughter keeps telling me that I should use a barbecue and cook the eggplant over a fire. But the problem with that is, as a climatarian, I'd rather not do that if I don't have to. I do have a barbecue, which I use for things I absolutely have to barbecue. It's also nice to have as an emergency. I'm kind of one of those people who likes to have the opportunity and to do stuff with by having that barbecue around. I'm going to put in about, I don't know, 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground cumin as well. So I've had some salt, some cumin. And I mentioned that I was going to put in a drop or two of liquid smoke, just to give it, oh, that's such a delightful smell. I'm just going to be careful about this because I don't want to put too much in. It has a lot of flavor to it. Come on. Maybe 2 or 3 drops in, small drops. I also have some smoked paprika, which I'm going to be adding in there, more of as a garnish than anything else. So it would be something I'll put on afterwards when you've got it in a bowl, a serving container of some way that you're going to be serving this as an appetizer. Oh, it smells so good. Now I'm just breaking it up. I'm also making sure that there's no big stringy things in there. If there are, then I want to break those down. I want it to have it at just a nice mixed texture, but not too gross. I want it to be not too bizarre. I want it to be just a nice, lumpy, chunky texture, and we'll see how that goes. I'm going to be doing a taste test of this. It's still warm. It tastes good when it's been chilled a little bit. Tastes even better, but not too chilled. I don't like it to keep. I'd like to take it out of the fridge before serving it and letting it sit for a little bit. My grandkids are coming over later today, and they wanted to participate in this video. And I said, I'm not going to make them cook. I don't want to make them cook. I don't want them to participate in that part, but I am willing to have them do a taste test and to show you what their thoughts are of the taste. So we'll see how that all works together with them. I'm just using now I'm putting the spatula in there just to make sure I got all the sides done. Also because a little bit of food in there, and I'm going to need to get it out of this into another container in a bit. Let me just do a quick taste test. Oh, that is so delicious. All right. With a little bit of smoked paprika on top as a garnish. Actually, I'm going to put a little bit in right now. I'll put in some later as a garnish on top, make it look good, but I just want a little bit more of that. I like that paprika taste. It's going to add a little bit to it, and just a tad little bit more salt. Seems like a little bit light on the salt. So put in another ½ teaspoon of salt. Or a 1/4 teaspoon, whatever. Didn't want to come out as easy as I thought. And just mix that in. That looks gorgeous. I'm going to put that in here. And if I was going to serve that just the way, if I was going to serve that right away, I would just sprinkle a little bit of that paprika on it, smoked paprika. And that's how I'll serve it to my grandkids when they come over. And that is Baba Ghanoush. Thank you all for watching the Unorthodox Vegan. Until next time. I have tasted the Baba Ghanoush. I like it, but that's just me. More important is to see if other people like it. I have my two special testers here with me right now. Please welcome Max and Skylar. What we're going to have them do is we're going to have them taste the Baba Ghanoush, which I have made up. I have made up an individual one for each of them and giving them some things to dip into it. All right, here you go. Skylar, Max, and I have some carrots and some bell peppers, sweet bell peppers. Right?
Okay.
You guys taste the Baba Ghanoush and tell me what you think. What do you think?
It's good. It's actually really good.
Do you like it as a treat?
Yeah.
Would you recommend it for other people? All right. Thank you very much. What?
Tastes like rat poop, but good rat poop.
All right. And that's it for this episode of the Unorthodox Vegan. If you have any questions, I posted my email so you can see that online. Please follow me on YouTube. For now, it's Sean Gold. Have a great day.